In this next section, well, I'll be going over kind of our process for turning CAD models into working 3D models that can go into a game engine and they're properly optimized, um, UV unwrapped and all that. Yeah, so for our CAD software, we use a software called Plasticity, and it's kind of same process for modeling in CAD and other programs, just a little more easier for artists to understand. And actually, some of the shortcuts and all that from Blender are almost the same in Plasticity. But if for those who don't know what CAD is, though, instead of triangles, vertices, and edges, most of this is just working with lines or curves um, to create shapes. Um, and hopefully you can kind of tell what the shape may resemble. Well, you won't tell, but once I select this and bring it over, hopefully it's a little similar, but I created this shape from all of these millions of curves. I'll be selecting only a few of these assets in here to export to Blender, um, just because there is quite a lot. So I've got my couple assets here that I want to export. As you can see, there's a lot going on with this. I'll go ahead and select all the models in here that I want exported, and I'll go to export, have it named Resilient Gate Low, and I'll go into detail what I mean by low. And here I can set the density of the triangles, and I'll put it to 0.25 for now, just as a start. I'm not going to go into detail on what all those mean. I don't really know what they all mean. But for now, we'll export this. Um, and then another thing I'll do is I'll export another model of the exact same one, but I'll call it high, and I'll bring this density up to like 0.85. And we may or may not use this um, in the next section. Maybe higher. Actually, I want to see if I can get some more. Well, I think that's fine. We'll may or may not use this model in the next section. I'll export this as well. And then now I can go into Blender and hopefully I didn't jump scare you there. Um, Within Blender, you're able to set your scene as a default with whatever assets you have in here. And so anytime I open up Blender, I have these two guys, one guy standing and one guy sitting. And these are just a reference um, for scale. So he's roughly 6 feet tall, and he's sitting in case I ever make a chair or anything like that. But for now, I'll actually hide them so that we don't worry about them for now. So we'll go ahead and import this model in, and we have low and high, but for now we'll just import the low. And scale is set to 0.3 for this asset. It's typically set to 1, but for this we're setting it to 0.3 because plasticity and Blender scale is sometimes a little incorrect, but that's fine. And import it. We'll rotate it 90 degrees. And yeah, with wireframe turned on, as you can see, it's pretty messy. A lot of times we don't want meshes to look like this, uh, because once it's in the game engine, well, actually, we don't want to work with an asset like this because we'll have to come in and UV unwrap, but we won't be able to UV unwrap properly because we can't select edge loops, which, quick example of an edge loop is this. So as you can see, this sphere is it's in perfect quads. This is a mess of triangles and n-gons, and actually I think it's mostly triangles, but we can't work with it. We can just select edges like this, and this works fine, but most of the time we like to select an edge quickly like this, which you won't be able to if an edge you won't be able to if an edge is like that. It'll start to break up, and we want to make it easier for ourselves. Plus, there's a lot of unnecessary geometry here that we need to clean up. Um, Easily collapse stuff like this that we know is unnecessary. And we'll run the Alt J, so tries to quads, in here, and we'll start to come through here and just clean anything up that we think is extremely unnecessary. And this process takes time, but because we get to use a CAD program that allows us to accurately recreate meshes, um, it's worth the time because our models come out a much higher quality. But I'll come through here and do this kind of stuff just about everywhere I go. Something I do want to mention is that we can easily replace meshes within Blender for working with one that's from Plasticity. As you can see, it's pretty dirty, but we can just come in here and replace it with a simpler mesh. So yeah, we'll continue just cleaning this up until it looks something like this. So if I go back and copy this and then bring it over to here, there you go. So if we look at these two, you can see that this is cleaned up quite a bit. Even underneath, there's all this unnecessary geometry here, and we'll just come through and clean it up nice and clean so that the triangle count of this mesh is roughly 800 triangles, and as start with, we started with roughly 1,500, which may not seem like enough, but once you start to bring all this together, it all adds up. It'll start to duplicate, and so now just this asset here is about 7,000 triangles. Yeah,